It's your favorite podcast, Tech. And today we will be discussing HR and everything around HR. And I have an expert in that field here. Um, she's also the co founder of Getwork Nigeria, Bunmi Omeke. Hello, Bunmi. Welcome to Tech.
Hello, Israel, and thanks for having me. When you said an expert in the field, my chest went, hmm, hmm. Well, I have progressive knowledge in HR, so let's leave it at that. Not, let's not go to that expert level, yeah. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm happy
You
to be
know,
here and share with you on everything that has to do with HR. Yes, I'm happy to share that knowledge.
okay, great. So, you are the co-founder of Getwork Nigeria. Or I don't know, maybe before we get to that level, I know I just did a brief intro of you and your endeavor, what you do. Can you just give us a little bit detail of what you do?
Great. So my name is Bumi once again. I like to be called Bumi. You know, I am a multifaceted professional with a legal background. That might surprise you. I moved into the field of HR through the learning and development route. I'm very big on learning and development training, you know, and moving into that field, I discovered a problem at the time. I was recruiting. I was involved in recruitment, and I was involved in training. Training, hiring, and recruitment process. And I discovered that there was a gap between um, work transition. There was a work transition gap for young graduates at the time in Nigeria. We could barely find entry level, professionals and graduates that are able to do entry level jobs. So I we came up with the initiative together with my the co-founder and our patron now, Ms. Yetunde Ajibade. We came up with that initiative, and we started to, which is called the Getwork Nigeria initiative, and we started to train and mentor Nigerian graduates, fresh out of school with 0 to 3 years experience. And we began to mentor them on job skills, employability skills, everything that will help them in the work environment to be efficient and effective. And that has been the journey since 2019. We've trained and connected over 1,000 graduates to entry level job position in the last
Wow,
5 years. Yes.
that's amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, now you can go deeper into Getwork Nigeria. What is Getwork Nigeria?
Okay, so Getwork Nigeria is an acronym that actually represents Graduate Employability Training Workshop. The first the first workshop we had was made up of 30 Nigerian graduates from different universities with zero experience. So we had a 3-day workshop with them where we engaged them in different aspects of employability skills, from tech skills to hard and soft skills, of course, which included tech skills, emotional intelligence in the workplace, how to craft, and how to tailor their CVs, to be able to connect with the right job, and also preparing them for interviews. We had a, a very holistic, workshop session with these graduates, and getting them into the job market. We have a lot of them that are representing us at different levels in different parts of the world. We had graduates that were able to get international scholarships, and they are doing very well in their different areas of endeavors from that particular session. And this is how we began, and we have continued to be a movement in the Nigerian graduate community. So our niche, or what we stand for, is raising outstanding graduates graduates that are different. They are ready to work and they are ready to improve the quality of our workforce in Nigeria. We have started with Nigeria, but we believe that in the next couple of years, as part of our vision and mission, that will be spreading across the continent, Africa, and of course, we will be global players. We'll be raising global players and the right movements within the graduate community. So this has been our vision and our actions in line with it.
Okay, so in these 5 years, how has been your journey so far? I know Getwork must have encountered a lot of challenges, problems, maybe from tools, maybe from the graduates, maybe from anything. So
Yes.
how easy or how difficult has it been so far these 5 years?
I think for such kind of movement, the first challenge is always getting the beneficiaries to understand the fact that they need it. If I'm going to say it in simple form, so when graduates come out of school, the first thing they are thinking about is I need a job. Just get me a job, just connect me to a job. They are not thinking about am I capable? Do I have what it takes to work on that job and to sustain that job? They are really not thinking about it. And I think it has a lot to do with the economic situation and could, the way the economic situation could also cascade to our national orientation as youth, like this entitlement thing, like just gets me, I'm out of school, I should get a job. We are not really asking the pertinent questions that are you actually prepared for that role? Do you have what it takes? Have you been able to show what it takes? An employer is not going to employ you because you need a job. When we bring that to the fore to these young graduates you mentor, it is actually eye-opening for them because we make them to
Yeah.
understand that an employer is not going to employ you just because you need a job. I think the first issue we need to address is the issue of unemployability before we start to address the issue of unemployment. We
Hmm.
had a statistics, some years back when we started. The statistics talks about the reason why 85% of Nigerian youths are unemployed is because of their unemployability, and that is
Wow.
something, that
Wow.
is something to actually look into. So we starting from there, that has been our challenge, getting to convince this young graduate that see you need to seek skills, work skills. You need to take some time out or start from school. Even at we reach out to final year students because of this, because we notice that when they're out of school, of course, because of the economic, hardships and economic challenges, they just want to get some jobs so that they can fend for themselves or give back to their parents and stuff like that. But when they are prepared from the final year stage, you know that situation is ameliorated. So that is what we have been trying to do to be able to overcome that challenge, of graduates push back, not identifying the fact that they need these employability skills. It's actually something they need to go through even before they get their desired work or the right work.
Bumi, let me
So
cut you. Let me cut you. Wait, there's something I want to ask you before I forget.
yes,
You said most graduates are not getting job because they are not employable, or
yes,
85% of Nigerians
yes,
are not employable.
yes.
What makes them employable, or what is making them not employable?
I'm sure you've heard of the adage that says that that talks about what do you call it? I'm trying to get that. I'm trying to get that out. That is it. Success is made up of 99% attitude, something like that, and 1%,
Okay,
talent.
okay,
I'm
okay,
sure you
okay,
understand what I'm trying to say.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a lot that needs to be done. I was even talking about orientation and all that. There are generational differences. You've been hearing about the debate on Gen Z issues in the workplace and all that, and the conflict between the different generations at work, and the conflict between expectations, what is expected in the workplace. I think much more than just the knowledge and the technical skills you have in school, You must have things like interpersonal relationship, the right attitude towards work. There are certain skills that are not taught in school. We have tech skills that are not well, it's just the academic part they get to learn in school. We have some art skills that are needed in your role. It's not, oh, because I'm an HR administrator, I don't need to learn how to do something relating to graphic design. It will help you in your work. So there are soft and hard skills that these graduates need to acquire to be able to work effectively in the workplace. Apart from even relational attitudes, relational skills, and all that. Communication skills is another aspect that we actually teach. Um, Another part is, I think I jumped to I went to even forward. I think there's even a basic side of it. There are some graduates that find it very difficult to even craft their CV in such a way that, when we talk about CV or resume, it represents what you have done and also connects you to the kind of job that you need. And if you're not able to craft your CV in such a way that it attracts the right employer or hiring managers or recruiters, then you're not able to get the right job. That doesn't mean that you're not good enough. That doesn't mean that you don't have the technical knowledge. But resume writing is something that graduates need to acquire. Is a skill on its own. I always say that preparing for interviews, how to answer your interviews questions using the different techniques, I mean the appropriate technique, is another skill you need to acquire as a graduate to be able to connect to the right job. So we've had these issues where we have graduates trying to apply for a job, or they're trying to get a job, and they're lacking in these skills. So we have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, you can bring in your CV and we can have a review session, a CV review session to help you to come up with the right CV, so that you can apply. We call it different things in different jurisdictions, just to clarify that. In Nigeria, you usually hear the word CV. It's actually also resume. Some people try to define it differently, that CV is when you're applying for academic and all that. But I just for the purpose of this conversation, CV and resume means almost, I mean, the same thing.
Same
It's
thing.
actually, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
So these are the things that we try to address, just to ensure that graduates, even with their very good maybe knowledge of the subject matter, they are able to transfer it into practical sense, into practical knowledge that will help businesses grow, that will help organizations effectiveness and efficiency, that will be able to contribute, that in a way that they will be able to contribute to the quality of workforce and not denigrate it. That is our role as change makers, in the graduate community.
Okay. Now that you are talking about CV or resume,
CV.
how, yes, okay, CV. How do you think a basic, or okay, let me use the word perfect CV should look like? Like every time you want to, do I need to change my CV for every job I want to apply for? Do I just need just one CV and send to as many opportunities I see out there? How should my CV look like that we attract recruiters?
That's a very good question. So, when people hear the word tailoring, they always feel, okay, are you trying to say something that is not correct, or you're trying to put in something in your CV that is not totally correct, just to attract um just to attract the recruiter to your CV, just to ensure that it aligns maybe with the job description in the job advert and all that. But that's not the case as a professional, because when you're out of school, you're a professional, you're a trained professional, you're a trained lawyer, you're a trained accountant, you're trained to do the job, you're trained to I mean, if you go into school and you read accounting, you come out as a trained accountant. That's the word, you're trained, right? You might have zero experience, but you have the training. So how do you, and throughout your study in school, you must have, maybe encountered some, you must have, played some roles, relating to accounting, or even in accounting. You did IT, you went into our National Youth Service program
Cool.
course,
Yeah.
and yes, and you went through the program, you worked in some places, or you performed some related roles. So all this sums up to your experience and training as a professional. Now, it might not be possible for you to have all that in your CV at the same time, and it might be possible depending on the job that you're applying for. And that is the role of CV. CV isn't is it's not a document in on its own. It's a document that you use in applying for a job. I always say that to our trainees. You are not just creating it to brag. You're not creating a CV to brag about yourself or your profile. You are creating a CV or a resume for the purpose of applying for a particular job. And that is where tailoring comes in. That is what we mean by tailoring. So you're looking at that job description, and you're looking at what you have done in relation to that job description, and you are projecting it on your CV. That is the aspect you are projecting. You might have done so many things, but what the recruiter wants to see is what is on the job description. It's just like when you go to the market. I used to use that illustration a lot. When you go to the market, maybe as a what do you call it, as a juice maker, and your client tells you to make like maybe like a mango juice or something, and you go to the market and you see so many good looking fruits, succulents and all that, you won't go for a orange because it looks good. You will go for the mango fruits because that is what you want to use. That is what you need to use to make your juice. That is how CV and job applications are. I won't go for a CV because the person is so good. I will go because the person is so good for the job, the right person for
Good,
the
good,
right
good.
job, right? So
Mm.
having that, understanding while writing your CV is very important. What are you applying for? What job are you applying for? If I as a recruiter on the other side, I'm trying to decide and select my candidates, I'm looking at a candidate, I'm looking at the CV of a candidate that fits into the job description. I'm not looking at the best CV in continuum, like on its own. I'm looking at the best CV that fits into that job description that I've put out there, right?
Wow.
So it is
Okay.
one thing that some of us, some of us have even missed while we're young graduates, but we got to learn this, and it's a good thing to have to pay forward and give back, to the graduate
Yeah.
community, and help them with. We do have CV review session to achieve this. We have CV sometimes bi-weekly, sometimes weekly. We do have review session on our platforms. We have a platform of over 200 graduates, young graduates, that we mentor and we share information with on daily basis. And yes, so we are able to achieve this through our different CV review session and mentorship program.
Okay. For me, so how many stages do you think an interview session, do you think it's ideal for an interview session to
Hello, Israel.
okay, network
You
is
are breaking out.
okay.
Yeah.
You're back, right?
Yes, you are breaking out.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
okay. So, I mean, sometimes the your CV will just get straight to the CEO, and within 30 minutes, the decision is made whether you get a job or not,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes this thing takes 6 stages, 7 stages to make a decision, and an applicant may not even get the job. So, how many stages do you think is ideal for an interview process?
Okay, so I would not say that there's an ideal stage. I think it also depends on the policy, the recruitment policy, and hiring structure of the company or the organization. As a seasoned HR professional that's worked in different industry and organization, I always recommend a very structured, because of course there are challenges at both ends of at both sides of the coin, both from the hiring company, the employers, and the employees. In HR parlance, we always call it an unending struggle and negotiation with the employee, between the employer and the employer, or between the employer and the employee, right? So on the employer side, it actually depends on the recruiting and hiring process and policy. I always encourage a very transparent and structured hiring process. From the start of engaging a candidate, it is important that they know how many stages they will be going through, you know, and also the stages of communication in the hiring process. That makes an hiring process less biased, you know, more uh less time wasting, because you also have to respect the time of candidates, right? And their career life. They also have decisions to make with regards to the jobs that they're applying for in other places. And I think this also cascades to your employee branding. There's something we call employee branding, the way you brand yourself as an organization, understanding that the applicants and the employee in your organization, they're also clients, they're also prospective clients. So it also affects the brand of your organization, having a very structured recruitment and professional process. First of all, ideally, I would say, like I said again, there's no, it actually depends on the policy of the organization. So if I say this, I'm saying this based on experience and what has worked in a particular setting. I'm not
Okay.
saying that that should be the
Okay.
standard, for any organization. I have to be careful to say that. So ideally, when you yes, so ideally when you reach out to candidate, the first thing you need to mention to them is at what stage they are. The first stage actually should be the stage of selection of your CV, selection of CVs, and then streamlining them, shortlisting them. This we do sometimes with HRIS softwares, like, so we have those softwares that are able to streamline and, speed up these processes as much as possible. I mean, that's the role of technology as well in
Mm.
HR. So
Yeah.
afterwards, we have the selection of CV, and then we have inviting the shortlisted candidates for interviews. Also, this process, the process of inviting them, the actual invitation letter should in some way be transparent enough to let the candidates know what the entire recruitment process will be going forward. Because at that point, you've gotten in contact with the candidate is anticipating, you know, to go through 1, 2, 3, So at that point, you have to be transparent enough, to explain to the candidates that this is the first selection stage. We are going to have an interview with you. For some companies, they do have like informal phone interviews, maybe 5 minutes, just to ensure that it's not a robot that is applying. Have a human voice or human face, right?
Yeah.
And then we have the face-to-face interview. For some, they still go ahead with virtual interview, and then it gets to another stage where you might have to meet with maybe the decision makers. In some organization, yes, you have to have like a final interview, maybe with the country manager or with the hiring manager. So it's basically, like I said, it depends on the policy of that organization. But the most important um, culture, or the most important value, I would encourage any employer, or hiring manager
Yes.
to adopt is transparency during the process.
Yes. During the process.
Transparency to the
Okay.
candidates, very important. Yes.
Okay. So, Bumi, a lot of people have complained. You talked about communication during a hiring process.
Mm,
And a lot of candidates have complained about poor communication during hiring process. For instance, a candidate gets to stage two or stage three of an interview, and that candidate couldn't make it beyond that stage. And all of a sudden, there is no correspondence, there is no email, there is nothing from the HRO team or the hiring team, and the candidate is just there, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, and just like that. How professional is this?
Yeah, yeah, we as I mean, as a, like again, ethics, I don't think, I know that it is not an ethical practice. That is an unethical practice, actually, with recruiters doing that. As much as we have that kind of situation, all we can just do is to continue to, speak about it. We have organizations, professional associations, of HR. Those are where they play, the position of influencers. Speaking to recruiters, how do you recruit within your organization? And like I said, these things have their own effect. When you are a recruiter within an organization, or you have such kind of recruitment policy that is not, it does not align with, ethical practices, it affects your brand as an organization. The first impression, that is one of the first impression that is given about a professional organization, is even the way it relates with the candidates, the job applicants, and your employees. Like I said, they are one of your first clients. They have direct experience with you. However, I always look at things from a solution perspective. How do we navigate these challenges as candidates, as job candidates, as applicants, as employees, I mean, prospective employees? How do you manage this kind of situation where, you apply to a place and you experience, this kind of silence? It's enough that you are getting rejection letters. The silence is worse, you know
Yes, it's
yeah,
worse.
so exactly. So how do you navigate this going forward with jobs you're applying for? I always say, after an interview, during your interview, try to be memorable. Try to be that memorable candidate. Connect. Don't just be about question and answering.
Yeah.
Try to not being informal. No. Um, have a memorable and a more relational, interview. And there are techniques to that. Again, that's part of our training. That's part of the training that we give to young graduates. There are techniques to achieve that. Then after the interview, try to reach out to the recruiter. Just a short note. It was interesting having me. I mean, it was an interesting interview session we had today.
But some
And
people feel, sorry to cut you, some people feel that may
yes,
appear desperate. Like me going back and asking how far with my process, what's the result like without me being contacted first, sounds
if
like I am desperate for this job, and sometimes I may be looked down on.
like I said, the message is not a message that just happens. I mean, it flows from the way you've related with the hiring manager or the recruiter at the point of interview. If the discussion or the
Okay.
email you're
Okay.
sending back, it flows from that, you know, uh, should I say, that little relationship that you built during the interview.
Yeah.
I've had
Okay.
very interesting interviews and interview session and all that. But again, I will leave that for my training sessions. But there are techniques, there are skills that are learned. Like I mentioned to you, you don't learn these things in school. They are learned from experience,
True.
personal experiences,
True.
right? Team
True.
experience, that
True.
they come to you through knowledge, learning, and transferring this knowledge. And that's what we're doing as an organization, transferring this knowledge, you know, to graduates for free. We're an NGO registered, we we are non-profit organization. So we do this for free. And our focus is on improving the level of, improving the quality of entry level workforce, you know. So after the interview, you can actually, going back to, not to digress too much, going back to after the interview, you can actually send a short note. That does not show desperation. It's actually courtesy. And especially
Okay.
if you have been very skilled at getting you would know, if you have been very skilled at getting the recruiter's attention, it's something,
Yes.
it's actually, so it's like an ice on the cake, right? If you've
Okay.
actually achieved getting the interviewer's attention during the course of your interview, I would encourage you to send that short notes. It's good because it makes you memorable. What you want to do at every point of business relationship, not just interviewing, even business, is to be a memorable person. When you enter a room, you want to be that memorable person, you know. Because there are a lot of people that are struggling with the same thing that you want. There are a lot of
Yeah.
people that are struggling with the same thing that you want to have. And this is what we tell our graduates. You have to be outstanding. You cannot be the same. You have to be different. So you have to be that memorable person when you get into your interview session and even afterwards. So if you send a short note, it's not desperation, but it can
It's
become
not a
desperation
problem. Okay.
if you are now sending text messages to the recruiter every day and you know. And again, if you know your onions, you know what you're made of, and you applying these skills, and you get opportunity to interview in 2, 3 places, that might just be the last interview you will get before getting your job. When you're able to
Okay.
apply these skills that we teach graduates, we've had a lot of testimonials. I don't even want to brag. They are there. They are there to show. So we've had a lot of testimonials of young graduates that, we've been able to connect to the right job. With they're applying the skills that they've learned over time in our mentorship community. Yeah.
Okay. So Bumi, um, how do you balance between not overpricing yourself and underpricing yourself? When the hiring team asks you what is your expectation, your monthly salary, what do you expect, and how do you try to make sure you don't scare them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
also making sure that you are not desperate, like the salary range of this particular position.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think the first thing first is research. You also need to know what the salary range is within that industry. There are a lot of things you need to know with research. First thing, you need to understand what the salary range is within the industry. You need to know about the company that you're applying to, and to some very large extent, what their budget could be. You need to be able to benchmark it with their competitors. And I know that some hiring process, they put in the range, the salary range, the range below and above. So you need to be able to position yourself at the higher range, and that can only be done by proving that you are the best person for that role, right? So during your interview process, when the issue of pricing comes up, I believe it's gotten to a stage of negotiation. So that is where you have to apply
Yeah,
your negotiation skills. And
yeah,
negotiation skills is not just something that comes on the spot, it comes with a lot of knowledge. You understand, you might have even spoken to somebody that works within the organization. There's nothing that says you can't, right? We have LinkedIn social platforms that, where you can connect professionally. So you might look up 1 or 2 persons that works within the organization and they are able to give you an information. So you're able to make an informed decision. So I believe that at the point of interview, you've already made up your mind that, okay, so this company might be offering you, is already predictable. This company might be offering this, and this value I'm adding. So you are coming in with that knowledge and you're negotiating. So it's not, I won't say that there's an hard and fast way of saying it, but at that point, you need to wear your negotiation cap. So you're asking the
yeah,
interviewer, do you have a range, just in case they don't have a range on their job adverts? And the interviewer may say, oh, we don't have a range. We just want to know what you're expecting. The interviewer might say, yes, we have a range. In a case where they have a range, of course, you know that you cannot say anything that is more than the range that the interviewer, because that is their budget. That is their, that's their budget for that role, right? So It's up to you to decide if it's something that is worth your uh if it's something that is worth your
What?
skills and your
Yes,
experience. Yeah.
yes.
So at that point, it's a personal decision to you. But where the recruiter says, "Oh, we just want to know, we're not sharing, we just want to know from our end." So you bring in what you know from research, just opposing it is what you are ready to accept, and you make
Okay.
your
So,
offer.
so is it ideal to
Yeah.
ask an applicant what they are earning from where they are coming from?
Hmm.
And
Well,
why should the recruiter even ask me where you are coming from, how much were you paid in your last salary, or where you are right now?
well, um, again, it has to do with the recruitment policy of the organization and what they feel they should say and not. It's also part of the negotiation tactics.
So what
Like I
relevance
told
is
you,
it? Like what I
is an
earn, how
yes,
important is what I earn
yes,
right now to what, I mean, before a company throw up a job
yeah,
vacancy, right? They
hmm,
already have a budget for it. This is the range.
yeah,
Now you
yeah,
already know that, and what is the point now asking me where I was coming from, how much was I paid? How important is that to the interview process?
yeah. On the flip side, I will answer that, and that's why it's actually difficult to say, okay, you have to stop that practice because there are different. There might be different motives to it. On the flip side, you don't want to hire an employer that is already receiving something that is higher than your budget and just wants to come in because, okay, I don't have any other option. I have to live where I am, and I just want to come
Okay.
in, and they are dissatisfied with the salary offering from day one, and they do your job. You know, salary is one of the greatest way to motivate staff, whether we like it or not.
Yeah,
People like the figures, so you don't want to
yes,
employ a demotivated candidate from the beginning, right? So on the flip side, some recruiters might actually be doing that just because they want to make sure that you're not being underpaid in your new role. So hence, it is very difficult to um, condemn that practice in its entirety because it comes from different motives. Some might just be doing that, of course, as a negotiation tactics, like I've mentioned before. Employers don't want to pay too much for a lot of work. It's a negotiation. Employee also wants they want to be paid for the value of their work, the exact value
yeah.
if possible. So there's always that struggle. It's an unending struggle. I've mentioned that before. For
Mm.
work condition, the time you put into work, salary, all that are unending, conflict between the employer on one hand and the employee. And it's always a negotiation in action. And so, because, like I mentioned again, I would say that because you can't really pinpoint the motive for that, it's difficult to condemn it in its entirety. Some people ask because they don't want to underpay you. You know, some people ask because they just want to use it as a negotiation tactics. So you, as an
Okay.
employee, we speak to the employee community, I mean the candidate community. We just tell you to know your onions and to know how to approach these things. If it's a job that you really desire, you must have done your research and decide on the list you can accept. It's your decision,
Yeah.
so that's what it is. Yeah.
So, Bumi, I am not a shirt person, let alone a bow tie. But because I am coming to chat with an HR practitioner, I have to respect myself and, dress like this. Because you know why? I don't want to get an email from HR. Why are people scared of HR? Why are staff, employees, why are they scared when they hear HR wants to see you? Why is that fear?
I think, well, traditional HR is all about hiring and firing. So it's based on the philosophy that the HR decides your career life in a particular work environment. But I think we're beginning
Okay.
to move away from that. I would say that. And I think from a global perspective, we're beginning to move away from that. And HR is there to actually also protect the interest of the employee in line with the business objective and in line with the rules, laws, and regulation. I mean, in complying with the labor laws and employment laws. And so HR is there to balance interests. And like I mentioned to you, because there's an unending conflict of interest between employer and the employee, the HR is in the middle of all that, trying to balance the interest of the employer and trying to balance the interest of the employee as well. You know, the parts of HR that employee don't see is the battle they have to go is the battle they have to go with the employer on behalf of the employee. They don't see that. That happens in closed doors. What they see is the final decision. you
Really?
know, yeah, exactly. So they don't see these things. They don't understand. I call it the pain of being an HR professional, the pain of that position. They don't see the pain. What they see is the decisions that are being made that is not a solely HR thing, but it's something an HR person needs to deliver. I'm saying this in the simplest of forms, right? In a simplistic
Wow.
way. So I would say that we've moved a lot from the traditional approach. Speaking for HR, you know, we've moved a lot, and that is why we have learning and development, we have performance management done in a quite a different way to ensure that, you know, they are not really bad people, but they are bad systems. That's the way we view these things. So if the right system is put in place, people will succeed, people will function well, people will be more effective, people will be more efficient. Creating an atmosphere where an employee is able to deliver effectively and is able to achieve even their personal career goals is something that the less traditional and the modern HR is moving towards. And we do this through, even when we do performance management and performance, we are encouraged to do this in a way that the employee, you know, um, is able to perform better, and not in a disciplinary or always in a corrective way. So because when people hear about performance
Oh,
management, is
okay.
always when the employee is going to be corrected for a gap in their performance. It shouldn't always be. It should be like an appraisal process. So all these things are actually changing. There's a clarion call, there's a call, for HR to change their the traditional hiring and firing, mentality to ensuring that human resources, which is one of the most important aspects of an organization's success, you know, is well managed to perform effectively and efficiently. So speaking to what you have said, Israel, we are moving gradually, I would say
Away
sporadically,
from.
from that traditional
Okay.
feeling. So I think
So,
employees should
so
also, they should also appreciate that and see that, and
okay.
cooperate with the HR
In the HR.
professionals. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I mean, this is the longest interview I've had on my podcast so far, Bumi,
Wow.
and I don't feel like stopping. This is so exciting and robust. But as we wind down, I know Getwork is planning something soon. So I
Yeah.
just want you to tell us about it.
Great. All right. So guess what is 5 years? We've been
Wow.
in the business, of transforming the lives of Nigerian graduates, especially in their career, different professional endeavors, and we're celebrating our 5 years. And it's celebrating 5 years of impact and also giving back at the same time in a bigger way. So we are having our conference, our renewed Hope conference, celebrating 5 years of impact, and it's going to be on the 8th of November this year. We'll be having different speakers. We are bringing that out in bits. Right now, we are at the point of inviting graduates from different Nigerian institutions, tertiary institutions, to apply for this national conference. Is going to be one like no other because our focus is on the Nigerian graduates, and we are here to tell them that there's renewed hope. Forget whatever is going on, you are the game changers. You know, we are the one changing the game as far as the workforce and the business world is concerned in Nigeria. So we're looking forward to applications from, outstanding graduates, because we'll be screening the applications, over the next 4 months up to when we're having the program. We'll be communicating venue to the applicants, and we are inviting as many graduates with 0 to 3 years experience from different Nigerian universities to apply. The location will definitely be in Lagos, but we'll be communicating the location to these successful applicants.
So what's the process like? You're talking about applying.
Yeah,
What are they applying for? And
yeah.
what's the process like?
Okay, so we have a link in the flyer that we're already pushing out, and so in that link, graduates will, I mean, the applicants will put in their information that they will be asked, will be, uh, you know, we have put in there, and then based on the information that they put in, they will be shortlisted. So we are actually looking for graduates who are hungry. And
Okay, yeah.
so if you are hungry to be a game changer, if you are hungry for to change the quality of workforce in Nigeria, if you are hungry to be that outstanding graduate in the work environment, even in the business environment, as many of you as that wants to also be entrepreneurs, is also important because your employers are your clients, right? So we are there to help you, hold your hands, mentor you, and we're looking forward to those kind of graduates, to apply, and then we'll look into your application and shortlist you. So we have the link in that flyer as well.
Okay. Bumi, thank you very much, Pat. It has been a robust session.
I didn't expect it to be this long, but hey.
Yes, me too. When it comes to
You had
HRO,
me
I
talking,
mean,
talking.
everybody just wants to know, as in, these questions has been so long in people's mind, and it's important
Yeah,
that we just ask them. And so good, you really gave a good
yeah,
explanation.
yeah. Also, another thing I wanted to add, I don't know,
Okay, okay,
is that for we have a graduate mentorship community on WhatsApp at the moment, and we encourage young graduates with 0 to 3 years experience to join that WhatsApp group. Is a lot has
okay,
been happening on that group, and we've had a lot of testimonials. We share career information, we share scholarship opportunities, free training opportunities. We connect graduates to work. We've had the opportunity of connecting even NYC, what do you call it? The NYC candidates. We've had the opportunity of connecting them to their place of primary assignment. So apart from just training and mentorship, we are job connectors, and we've been able to build a robust community that is giving back and also paying it forward. So I will encourage every young graduate to try to be part of that community. The link is in the bio of our Instagram page at Getwork Nigeria.
okay. Thank you very much, Bumi.
Mhm.